This video is sponsored by you and your wonderful support on Patreon. Help me continue to make more videos and get access to exclusive stuff by heading to patreon.com/writingongames. Thank you so much for your support, and now on with the show. If you were to be extremely charitable, I can see why some people would look at Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, 2022's Modern Warfare 2 that is, and think that it might be going for something. In what surprisingly little talk I've seen regarding this latest installment's campaign in the lead up to its release, the one thing I have seen discussed most widely, Call of Duty's controversy du jour, is a mission whereby you are tasked with, quote, de-escalating tensions by aiming your gun at civilians in their homes you've just barged into in the middle of the night. It is absurd, daft, yes, but could this also be deliberate on the game's part? This is, after all, the second installment in the modern Modern Warfare saga, where beyond simply playing on nostalgia with all your favourite characters returning from the series' glory days, like that guy with the mask, or that Scottish dude I guess, whose new voice actor coincidentally I'm convinced is actually English, thanks to the way he straight-faced delivers lines like "Steam on bloody goddamn Jesus," as if that's something anyone other than Groundskeeper Willie would actually say, let alone in that cadence, but all that's another story. Said beloved characters find themselves on the new, grittier battlefield, a muddled mess of interdependent factions where the lines between good guy and bad are blurred. You know, perhaps this use of the specific term de-escalation is a means of these characters excusing their shady, often downright illegal actions by dressing them up in more friendly, bureaucratic language. You know, the kind of thing you could envision being put on a report after the fact. We de-escalated a highly tense situation in which hostiles were armed. A clever subversion of objective design. You're muddying the terms, breaking the rules, just like these characters are. A reminder that you're no more honourable than the people you're going up against here, is what I would be saying if the game still didn't try its absolute best to make your crew to be the unquestioned heroes of this supposedly anti-war moral soup. You know, for all its talk of needing to bend the rules to get the job done, Modern Warfare 2 carries on its predecessor's insistence that the Iranians, similar to the Russians in the last game, don't get game overs for killing civilians like you do. I mean, really, the game is borderline incoherent. Price, Soap, Ghost and crew are the good guys because they bend the rules to get the job done, but not like the other guys bend the rules to get their job done, and your higher-ups insist on adhering to the rules, which makes them the bad guys, except when they explicitly break the rules, which also makes them the bad guys. But when your higher up gets kidnapped, she's suddenly a good guy, a quote, friend in need, despite her being one of the bad guys in the last game for holding Price back from being able to break the rules to get the job done, which he did anyway by emotionally tormenting that woman and child, among many, many other stupid things, because in Modern Warfare's eyes, the ends always justify the means, right? And the thing is, said muddling of the story makes it feel kind of odd when you're listening to these characters that, to be clear, the game still thinks are heroes, hoot and holler, pat themselves on the back, as you're, say, blindly firing on a school from a bomber above, despite, I should say, the characters being so adamant about buildings being off limits in the last mission, as there might be civilians in there, or that said buildings aren't part of the mission, those pesky rules of engagement, rules, I should say, that are roundly dismissed by all members of all factions as getting in the way of actual progress. God, this game is an absolute mess. And yes, I know, I'm doing it again. I'm doing exactly what I advised against in my video on the last Modern Warfare game. I'm taking Call of Duty seriously on its own daft terms, instead of just riding the roller coaster of intense shootouts and explosive set pieces. And that's something I am absolutely willing to do, mind. I've played and enjoyed a ton of these campaigns. I love big dumb video game action as much as the next guy. But that's just it. Call of Duty is extremely dumb. I understand 2020's Black Ops Cold War wasn't everyone's cup of tea, but it knew what it was narratively speaking. And in that knowledge, that throwing away of any inkling that this is a story you should be taking seriously, it allowed for some of the most genuinely exciting, inventive gameplay set pieces I think I've experienced in one of these things. It could go completely off the rails because it it didn't impose those rails on itself. Ironically, for a game all about the necessity of breaking the rules, Modern Warfare 2's insistence on being comparatively grounded and representing the gritty realities of modern conflict means that its moments of bombast can't live up to the scale, the audacity of what came before. It simply won't allow itself to be a bit silly, to be the most fun it could be, because it has a serious story to tell. And that is to say, I think that this game's biggest sin of all is that for the most part, its missions are just so nothingy, so reliant on surface level nostalgia. For example, it's as if early on, the dev team saw the fervour surrounding Clean House from 2019's game, the mission where you slowly ascend a block of flats, methodically clearing out hostiles, and likely scarring a few children along the way, and said, well, why don't we just do that again? With the cramped residential interiors you're often confined to early on, losing the impact they once had. You know, it turns what was once a tense, uncomfortable change of scene and raising of the stakes into several glorified games of whack-a-mole across increasingly samey environments, just waiting to be shot so you can then take out each individual citizen without the worry that you're going to get the aforementioned game over. Further, what you're actually doing in most of these missions seems to lag behind even Call of Duty's usual propensity for stop and pop, click on the enemies until they stop firing style gameplay, with the increased reliance on throwing multiple heavily armoured enemies at you, resulting in many moments where it just felt safer to simply spend my time hanging back looking through a scope than actually getting in about the action, with the moments that would otherwise bring some variety to proceedings, the harbour stealth mission, the Amsterdam heist, etc., are all over in such a flash that it only serves to heighten the monotony of the regular missions you so unceremoniously crash back into. Which makes it all the more surprising when, about halfway through the game and seemingly out of nowhere, Modern Warfare 2 manages to drop a mission that left me wondering if I was playing the same game I had been for the last 2 hours. It's truly shocking how good this level is by comparison, really showing the potential of what this franchise can actually achieve when it focuses on gameplay rather than its trite narrative. See, if there's one thing that Recon By Fire proves almost immediately, it's that when done well, there's something curiously compelling about sniper missions in otherwise frantic shooters. When everything quietens down to this extent, there's a sneaky glee to getting the jump on enemies who will never know your presence, working your way through an entire battlefield of hostiles as your partner coldly calculates the remaining time on this earth in notches on a scope. But thanks to your relative vulnerability in close quarters combat, you become something of a glass cannon should you get spotted, allowing the designers the chance to take what would normally be the most boring parts of a game like this, achingly slow movement and equipment management for example, and imbue them with a surprising level of tension, turning these moments of quiet into taut games of risk and reward. Recon By Fire encompasses every bit of this design philosophy, even starting with a funny little bait and switch before opening up to a fairly massive area of operations compared to the cramped interiors of prior levels. With each stage of your progression through this battle, from making the long journey to the compounds themselves, to getting inside and clearing them out, featuring a relatively dense suite of options with which to approach. You could take the direct route, with the alerted enemies resorting to mortar fire, meaning you have to frantically reposition with every shot taken. Or you could take Price's advice, lining up every shot exactly to account for bullet drop, slowly but surely clearing the perimeter before moving in and deciding whether you want to take the front door to remove the threat, break in through the skylight, or send some tear gas through the vents to force the enemies outside. That, or most likely, an on-the-fly combination of all of the above. Of course, none of this is reaching immersive sim levels of pliability by any means, but it goes above and beyond anything you've done up to that point in the game, reminding you that for its reputation as a borderline on-rails cinematic shooter, Call of Duty can place trust in its players when it wants to. The dynamic ebb and flow of tension in this mission is not only impressive in its own right, it's driven by your own choices. But then there's that moment, in amongst all the fun you're having turning over these warehouses looking for intel, enjoying the mechanical freedom you're afforded in finally being allowed to think outside the box, not having to worry so much about restrictions resulting in an instant game over, you come across a set of barracks where someone has simply framed a nice photo, and if you're anything like me, you start to ask, is this one of the people I killed? Or is it their family that they won't be able to go back to anymore? In reality, this is likely just a placeholder, probably one of the development team as a little inside joke or something, but its mere placement among the bodies of all these soldiers we've been systematically mowing through managed to get these questions going in my head without one word of dialogue. It got me questioning my character, my team's coldness to the massacres we were committing. You know, even if your character has been acting in the so-called national interest, even if these fodder enemies had been doing something bad, it's hard to really argue that you've been doing anything truly objectively good in dropping down from above and riddling these people with bullets, no matter how cold, how unsettlingly jovial your partner might be towards the whole thing. And with that one detail alone, what do you know? Maybe conflict isn't such a good fun thing after all. You've got a clearer distillation of something approaching a sentiment critical of war than anything found in the multiple cutscenes you have to sit through, all while still allowing you to engage intense dynamic gameplay driven by your own decisions. This, in my eyes, is the game actually capitalizing on nostalgia in a meaningful way, recalling the suspense and excitement of what many fans consider one of the best Call of Duty missions period in its invocation of all gillied up, but you're also nodding subtly towards the consequences, the human cost of war that marked the narrative strengths of the franchise at its peak, that at the very least hinted at the potential for this series to say something beyond sheer explosive mayhem with more than a little jingoism on top. And it's a similar case with the mission Alone, where you're outnumbered and outgunned, sneaking through these labyrinthine streets whose cramped appearance belies a winding network of alleyways and potential routes for you to explore, foraging for resources in people's houses to engage in a rudimentary crafting system, unlocking options you may not have experimented with otherwise. And what's more, the atmosphere in these houses is downright scary as you plunge yourself into almost complete darkness among the countless lifeless bodies of civilians your pursuer has brutalized in their search. You broke the rules and it resulted in this. Or hell, maybe it was always destined to happen. With a system this thoroughly corrupt, this rotten, how could you have expected anyone but the most sadistic of individuals to thrive in it? The same individuals you've been cutting deals with, working with, calling members of your team. Again though, I would say that if this wasn't Modern Warfare 2, where these fan favourite characters are of course spared such self-reflection, because they're totally in the right here obviously, the dialogue playing out as you try your best not to trip up over these bodies, I remind you, being used more as a bonding exercise between Soap and Ghost than at all questioning their role in this carnage. But look, at this stage I don't care. Modern Warfare 2's story is obviously nonsense, but from a gameplay perspective, here we have two of the most engaging missions across the entire franchise. I will take it. But then I remember that the mission sandwiched between these two highlights, rescuing the kidnapped higher-up I talked about earlier, is perhaps the worst mission I've ever played in one of these games to date. One that clearly attempts to ape the bombast of similar car-jumping chase sequences in Uncharted, but whose utter prolonged mundanity is matched only by its astounding technical shoddiness, as you largely just watch things happen around you without even music to get your pulse pumping a bit, or you just leisurely cruise past cars with physics so janky it begins to feel like a PS2 game. Again, throughout all of this, I couldn't help but think if this was Black Ops Cold War, we'd be spewing grenades and punching people mid-car jump. We'd take that APC and ramp it off a massive cliff right into the sunroof of the Jeep carrying our target, rather than just abandoning it. Sure, the resulting chaos might not be as gritty, or as dark, or as reflective of the realities of modern combat, but god, would that be such a bad thing? Hell, I even made the argument in a prior video that Cold War's prioritizing of gameplay over trite moralizing more honestly highlighted the brutality, the violent sociopathy of the characters performing this wildly illegal, over-the-top stuff. The president authorizing it all, serving intentionally or otherwise as a more pointed critique of the mechanisms of power driving conflict than anything found in Modern Warfare 2, whose overall sentiment is as nonsensical as it is deeply hypocritical. Come to think of it, is any of this more subdued gameplay any more realistic due to the game's more serious view of its own narrative and tone? That aforementioned APC, for example, the biggest threat in the level it's a part of has such a predictable pattern of firing a line of shots your way, then having 3 perfectly spaced mines kinda just float from it in a way that doesn't so much resemble the oppressive piece of powerful military hardware they're going for, as much as it does a Crash Bandicoot boss. I mean, you're even treated to what is an old Dara O'Brien bit brought to life, where the game literally sits your character down and, at gunpoint, quizzes you on how much attention you've been paying to the details of this bullshit story. I would say it sure marks a step up from surviving waterboarding by dodging the water and pressing F to pay respects to breathing, or awarding this recently orphaned panicked kid an achievement for suddenly becoming a crack shot and taking out 2 guards with 1 shot, but I also don't think that it's possible for a bar to sink any lower than that. In short, the more quote-unquote grounded elements of this new Modern Warfare series end up feeling more nakedly video gamey than they ever have done. In its narrative's failed attempts to convince us of the grim, dark nature of war, while simultaneously trying to convince us that we're totally playing as the good guys, the only thing Modern Warfare has left up its sleeve is to tell us, gaze stupefied upon the big dumb explosions you may or may not be causing. Stop and point at the thing until thing isn't there anymore. Sometimes you're stopping in a slightly different way or telling someone else to stop and point, but you're still just clicking until the credits roll, I guess, waiting for the thing to not be there anymore. And if there's a more apt way of describing just how empty Modern Warfare 2 feels to me, despite a couple of gameplay highlights that managed to shine through the debris, I don't know what it is. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, check out my podcast, and follow me on Twitch if you're so inclined. As always, these videos are made possible by the support of my wonderful patrons, whose names you're seeing on screen now. They've also been getting access to exclusive videos I've been producing, pieces on teardown, games criticism at large, fully produced scripted videos that feel like a better fit on a smaller platform like Patreon. If you want to help the channel continue and see more content, as well as entirely ad-free uploads, just head to patreon.com/writingongames and pledge only what you feel comfortable with. I am forever thankful for your support in whatever form it takes. Special thanks go to Mark B. Writing, Artyom Vitsyuk, Charles J. Liu, Alistair Dunn, Vitautis Catharsis, Matthew Bowman, Ben Pace, David Karstens, Mike G, Tom Webster, Max Cohen, Danis Sikauskis, Christopher Faherty, Nicholas Villeneuve, Nelen Palacios, Ruth Knapman, Yogesh Deshpande, Leah Chinello, Captain Knusprik, Bryce Snyder, Lucas, David Björk, Winter, Timothy Jones, Matthew Grover, Urban Cheese, Tommy Carver-Chaplin, Dr. Motorcycle, Shardfire, Lynn Browning, Cameron Siniseros, Vila Nurmi, Spike Jones, Dallas Keane, Charlie Kimball, Jordan Midler, and Charlie Yang. And with that, this has been another episode of Writing on Games. Thank you all so much for watching, stay safe, and I will see you all next time.